of woman. She didn't specify biology.
Now you're backtracking. Michael.
I'm not backtracking at all.
That's dishonest now.
I'm not back. How am I backtracking?
No. Hold on a second. Let's be clear. 30 seconds ago, you said Marsha Blackburn didn't ask for the biological; she asked for the legal.
No, I didn't.
Let me finish the sentence.
Okay, but you're misrepresenting what I said.
No, I'm not. I would encourage the audience to rewind.
I would encourage that. I would encourage that as well. But
it's no secret that the Biden administration has been the DEI administration. But what's always interesting is the way that they're allowed to say that publicly, but when conservatives point out the same thing, suddenly we are called racist. Because throughout the years, as we well know, Biden has publicly said that he made Supreme Court justice picks, cabinet picks, and of course his very vice president for the sole purpose of diversity. He openly went out and said, I'm choosing a black woman because of diversity, and look at us, we're so good for black people. But then simultaneously, when conservatives respond to that and say, okay, well, Ketanji Brown Jackson is a diversity hire, right? Kamala Harris is a diversity hire. After all, those are your words. That's what you said. Suddenly, we are called racist. You know, recently, the New York Post ran a headline saying that America may be soon subjected to the country's first DEI president, Kamala Harris. And this is, of course, talking about the theory that Biden might get replaced with Kamala. But California Governor Gavin Newsom responded to this by saying, firstly, Joe Biden is our next president. But secondly, this is straight up racist. So according to Gavin, according to most liberals who responded to this headline that the New York Post ran is incredibly racist, because how dare you accuse Kamala Harris of being a diversity hire again, despite the fact that in 2020, Biden openly said what? He said he's going to intentionally choose a black woman vice president, and Kamala Harris was chosen because she's a black woman. But of course, when conservatives turn around and say the same thing, suddenly we are racist for pointing out the very thing that they said. It really is a tale as old as time. And it really got me thinking back to this Michael Knowles debate with David Pakman over the appointment of Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. This is, of course, something that Biden celebrated. Hey, first black woman on the Supreme Court. But of course, at the time when conservatives said, okay, so she's a diversity hire because you just said that? No, that's racist. And so progressive YouTuber David Pakman came on the show to debate, and they talk about Ketanji, some of the matters related to it. If you'll remember back then, she could not even define what a woman was. And it's just an interesting clip given some of that recent Kamala Harris drama. So let's take a listen.
You've been watching the Ketanji Jackson hearings. Am I crazy, or should a twice Harvard-educated nominee, federal judge, nominee for the Supreme Court, who is a woman, be able to define what a woman is?
I can't say if you're crazy. That would be for a mental health professional.
For my doctor.
You're either dishonest or ignorant, and we can maybe figure out which. So here's the deal. I mean, I'm kind of, we're just meeting each other. I'm sort of kidding around, but here's the deal. There are no instances where, when issues come before the Supreme Court, it comes down to the dictionary definition of a word. When it comes to who counts as a woman, or what is discrimination, or what is negligence, it's always in very narrow circumstances where dictionary definitions do almost nothing for you. So she was very smart not to play into these kind of rhetorical black holes, because whatever definition she gives, Michael, she then is going to be pushed into some corner with some case or article or book she hasn't read, by the way, and there's no upside to it. So if we're just having a good faith conversation about strategy, she did the right thing. Almost 60% of Americans believe she's qualified, and she is. And that's really all there is to it. It's kind of boring.
Okay. It's really not that deep. It was a simple question that Senator Blackburn asked a couple of years ago. What is a woman? Can you define it? And instead of just like defining it, we're getting into this complicated it wasn't really good because you might bring up a legal case. It's a simple question. It really is. But okay. All right. Let's hear more, because I have more to say.
I agree with her. I don't agree with you that it's boring. I think it's one of the most interesting questions in the country, that we're now at a point where we can no longer even define man or woman. But I do agree with you on strategy. She's in a very tough spot because her side of the aisle, and she's relatively leftist, even by the standards of the Democratic Party. So on her side of the aisle, there is a new definition of woman. Well, they haven't given the definition of woman, but it's not the old definition of woman, which is a person who's not a man. That is out because of the transgender movement. And so she knows that if she gives this new definition, which is a woman is, I don't know, a woman is someone who says that he or she is a woman, that's going to alienate, I think, the vast majority of Americans. If she gives the old definition that a woman is a female human being and a female is of or denoting the sex that can bear children and reproduce and produce eggs, for instance, she knows that will alienate her base, and she knows that now is apparently controversial in the law after the Bostock decision, after other transgender decisions. So I understand the strategy, but what about the law? What about the definition? You say she shouldn't be quoting the dictionary. Well, fine. Shouldn't she at least be able to give the legal definition of a woman? Shouldn't she, a woman, have some sense of what that is? I'm not a meteorologist. Right. I can tell you if it's raining.
Yeah, there is no legal definition of a woman, and that's exactly the point.
What? There's no legal definition of a woman? There are laws pertaining to protections for a woman. Obviously, this whole transgender sports thing is going to be a legal debate. What are you okay, hold on. Let's hear him out.
Point here is, when it comes to the court is in a position, or will be in a position, or might be in a position, to decide for the purposes of a particular set of facts based on a claim brought by someone who appeals a case about these issues. And so it's literally irrelevant to her job as a Supreme Court justice. And so, again, we can have a cultural discussion outside of the context of the Supreme Court. In the Senate's job in evaluating, is she qualified? It's an irrelevant question, and by her qualifications, she's more qualified than any of the 9 justices currently on the court. There's no way to deny that.
I think you can, because I think all of the 9 justices on the court can tell you what a woman is. And so, so I know we're getting back,
because they've never been asked to do that. No, nobody's ever been asked to define words in this way during hearings. So you could speculate that, but they've never been asked.
They've never been asked.
Impossible.
I agree. Say that. I've never, but I, as a gambling man, I would bet the farm that Justice Alito could tell you what a woman is. But you're right; they've never been asked because it's never been controversial before. But I want to get to a point you just made. You said there's no legal definition of a woman, but there must be, because there are legal protections specifically for women. So if we don't know what a woman is, then
Title III thing
and Title IX, and Title IX is quite controversial.
Have a good faith conversation, or one that's in some way productive, you know.
You're saying you and I, or you're saying Ketanji Jackson?
You and I, yeah. I don't know if, listen, the Republican senators obviously didn't want to have a good faith conversation. I was talking about you and I, Michael.
Yes, well, I do want to. This is why I'm granting you you're making the point on political strategy. I totally grant you that.
So notice the crux of David Pakman's argument there. It's an irrelevant question. It doesn't have anything to do with her job as a Supreme Court justice, and it's a bad faith question. So here's why, in many ways, I think it is relevant, besides the gotcha of, Supreme Court justice can't define what a woman is. Well, these types of cases are very likely to come to the Supreme Court sooner than later, given the current cultural landscape, right? You know for a fact there's going to be some type of transgender, for instance, sports lawsuit, men and women sports, that whole thing. I'm sure that's going to be a thing. I'm sure things to do with school or Title IX or prisons, all this stuff. You're going to see lawsuits about this. This is a pressing issue of the age. How do we define man and woman? What is a transgender? All this stuff. So to pretend like asking that question is simply bad faith or it's irrelevant, it's some type of distraction. No, I think it's very relevant to current law. And like I said, I'm sure in the coming years, there's going to be a landmark Supreme Court ruling that involves this question in some way. So yeah, it is actually relevant to ask that question. Just saying, and the fact that she was not able to define it years ago, says a lot, not just about the left, but actually the type of people who are going to be deciding on interpretations of law in this country. Tells you a lot.
Was the right move for her to make if she wants to avoid
relevance.
But then bring up Title IX. There are legal protections for women. This is coming before the court. It's come before the court in the last term. There are going to be a lot more cases coming before the court coming up. It seems extraordinarily relevant that we know what this woman thinks of these issues and of a basic question of biology and human nature. What is a woman? I mean, I don't think that's a bad faith question for the senators or for me to ask.
No, it's not necessarily bad faith, but we have to be able to, what I hope are reasonable people, Michael, understand that in the context of her role as a Supreme Court justice, it doesn't come down to a biological opinion. Like, can you at least grant that?
Okay, but what about the legal opinion, the legal definition? Does it come down to that? You know? Okay, then say, like, what under recognized U.S. law and past court precedent is a woman? She didn't say that either. And by the way, if I recall this correctly, you know, it's been a long time. I think her actual answer to that question was, I am not a biologist. Okay? I'm not a that's what she said. So you're saying it doesn't come down to a biological definition, but that's what she said. She said, I'm not a biologist. She could have said, if she wanted to be a real legal scholar, she could have said, well, historically, U.S. law has defined woman in this way, or it's acknowledged that this is what it means. She didn't say that. Her answer was, I'm a biologist. So very interesting.
Well, it's true that for what the Supreme Court decides, these are narrow issues where when it comes to Obamacare's constitutionality, which Amy Coney Barrett never, refused to weigh in on, with all of these things, these are really narrow legal decisions, and there is no way in which a dictionary definition of terms does anything for us.
Well, it might do something, but I grant your point a little bit, except that Marsha Blackburn didn't ask for the biological definition or the dictionary definition. That's what Ketanji Jackson added. She said, I'm not a biologist. But all Marsha Blackburn asked was, just tell me what a woman is from a legal perspective, a constitutional perspective, a philosophical, whatever.
That's literally not what Marsha Blackburn said. I would encourage you to pull the clip and identify the time at which she said that.
She said she didn't mention biology and she didn't mention the dictionary. She said,
but you just asserted that she said she wanted the legal and philosophical. She never said that.
No, I didn't say that. I said I just said Marsha Blackburn asked for the definition, any sort of definition that Ketanji Jackson could give of woman. She didn't specify biology.
Now you're backtracking.
I'm not backtracking at all.
That's dishonest now.
I'm not how am I backtracking?
No. Hold on a second. Let's be clear.
What?
30 seconds ago, you said Marsha Blackburn didn't ask for the biological. She asked for the legal.
No, I didn't.
Let me finish the sentence.
Okay, but you're misrepresenting what I said.
No, I'm not. I would encourage the audience to rewind.
I would encourage that. I would encourage that as well.
But can I even get it out?
Sure.
I mean, it's okay. The problem with what you just did, Michael, is you just said Blackburn asked for the legal definition, and I said, no, she didn't. You said, no, that's true. She actually just asked for the definition.
I'm sorry. Well, then if either you misheard or it seemed that I misspoke, I'll be very clear. Marsha Blackburn just said, what's the definition of a woman? She didn't specify anything else. Now, you then said that biology has no place here or that the dictionary definition has no place, but that's not what Marsha Blackburn asked for. She just asked a simple question.
Understand that in these Supreme Court hearings, the senators can ask the questions however they want, and the nominees can answer them however they want.
Or not answer them.
My opinion is, this is my opinion, and you can have a different one, and that's the great thing about America, Michael.
Can we just be real, folks? Like, he's not really saying anything. All right, it's a bunch of fancy words or whatever, but when you break it down, there's no substance in anything that he is saying. The last minute or so we just watched, he's just trying to do a gotcha. He's like, oh, but you said this. And I'm like, no, he's like, Michael Knowles is saying, no, okay, fine. Let me clarify. This is what I mean. And he's like, no. And then now he's just breaking down, well, don't you know how a hearing works? They can ask the question and they can answer the question. It's like, thank you for that, David Pakman. It's real groundbreaking information there. But I think the actual things he was talking of on substance just simply were not true. Like he was saying, it's irrelevant for a Supreme Court justice to be able to define a woman. Clearly not, because there's lawsuits over Title IX all the time. But anyways, long story short, I think this is essentially what happens when you get a Biden administration run by DEI. You got Supreme Court picks that can't define a woman and were obviously picked for diversity reasons. Again, Biden celebrated that fact himself. You got a vice president. But of course, if we say that, we're being racist. And if we ask the question of what is a woman, We're being transphobic and we're being sexist. Apparently so. Okay, with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.